Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Hey, bud, how are you?
Hey, what's up, my brother? How you doing?
Good.
Dude,
Doing
I'm
good.
so excited for today. Let's just forget all the parking lot banter and let's just dive in.
Blah, 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 blah. You will, just read the disclaimers online.
Yeah, totally. Just go to the website.
Don't listen while you're driving because
Don't
it's
take
dangerous.
anything we say seriously.
That's right, exactly.
But no, man, it's so exciting. So I just love how this shit works sometime, right? And so I was just talking in a prior episode about this random dude on TikTok,
right?
That was sober and he's a listener, right? It's just crazy, and so I'm really excited to have a table for three today.
Ding, 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 ding.
I know you normally introduce the table for three, and you're so good at it that I'm going to suck at this. But Carole, welcome.
Yeah, welcome, Carole.
Thank you.
So, Carole B, I have known Carole B. This is just crazy, again, how this stuff works. I've known Carole B since grade school. I can still point her out in our school pictures, absolute cutie pie. And we stayed connected through Facebook, as Facebook came on. And, I was never really, once I graduated, I moved away, career focused, moved 12. I was never really cared about high school anymore, right? And I worked all the time through high school anyhow. But I reconnected with Carole B on Facebook, and something about a house or something you're moving from one place to another, or something I remember, right? And I don't remember how, and maybe Carole, you can help remember. But I found out Carole's on this sober path,
yeah.
right? So this is when shy Glenn, I didn't want to tell anybody I was on the sober path. Now it's a little different, right? I'm like, Carole, like knock knock, like I'm on the sober path too, and she's like, oh man, that's great. So
kindred soul.
Yeah, so it's crazy how this works. So what we thought we'd have Carole on. Carole, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Love to have you tell your story. I haven't heard it, so I'm looking forward to hearing it. We kind of break it down, and we don't have a ton of time. Did you remember the guest we had on recently? We said, dude, we have 20 minutes, and he spent 18 minutes on second grade.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, okay, so we're on 17 times. But so what we try to do is just break it up into experience, strength, and hope, right? What did you go through? We don't really do tons of drunkalogs, although they're kind of cool sometimes. But then, hey, your strength. What did you do, especially on the 12 steps, whatever.
Right.
And then what hope can you give somebody today? Carole, we have a lot of listeners that are sober curious. They're just trying to figure this out and like, man, if I stop drinking, I won't have a life, right? How am I going to figure all this out? So I'm going to shut up. And I'm going to pass it to you. And I'm so pumped that you're on. It's so cool to see Facebook come to life and have you actually jump on with us.
Great. Thanks so much for, inviting me to, join today. I appreciate that. And I relate to so much that you already said, including the fact that when I first got sober, I didn't want anybody to know. There was like a shame around that, right? Like, I'm an alcoholic. I'm so embarrassed. And
I failed.
Yeah, I'm a loser, right? And today I feel very blessed, right? And I feel like, there's nothing for me to be embarrassed about there. And, by me being more open about being sober, I can share that experience, strength, and hope for folks, because I too thought that having to stop drinking was going to ruin my life. Like, what was I going to do? It wasn't going to be any fun. And I've since found out that my life is way better not drinking, and it's way more fun, and it's fun in very simple ways. But, I'm sober since June 24th of 2008 by the grace of God and the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there's no way I could have done this, without my higher power, without the fellowship and the program. And, when I look back on my life, I was the fifth child of 6, Italian Catholic family. So when I came in, I kept thinking, why am I an alcoholic? And I wanted to know why I was an alcoholic. was it that Irish Catholic blood? Was it a genetic thing? And, and also, and I don't know if you remember this, Glenn, but when I was 10 years old, my oldest brother died in a car accident, right? So, going through that grief and that trauma, not just for myself, but my whole family, watching my parents lose a child and my siblings. And, there was just a lot of sadness. And, through time, I think we kind of became a cohesive, functioning family again. And I don't know how my parents didn't drink through that, right? Like, that would have been my solution. Drink, don't feel. But then when I was 16, my one of my older sisters died in a car accident as well. And
oh God.
So we were just torn apart again. And naturally, I turned, for me, I didn't know what else to do. And I turned to alcohol to numb out and, certainly some other substances. And, as I came into AA, I'm like, well, was it the trauma? Was it, is it the genetic thing? And, through time, I've realized it doesn't matter. Like, none of that matters why I'm an alcoholic.
God, you are so spot.
I actually wrote that down. I actually wrote that down. I mean, at some point, I sat with 10 PhDs, and they're like, we're going to figure out why you drink, and of course they failed. Because I think at the end of the day, Carole, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Just get in the rooms.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay, sorry to interrupt, but yes, I so relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and today I just like I tell people, there is a solution, right?
So what brought you into AA?
What brought me into AA is actually somebody worked the big book on me without me knowing, and it was actually a therapist. My daughter had gone through some trauma, and I got her a lot of help, and she finally got on the right path, and she's amazing today. I'm so proud, and that's all God inspired, sure. Right? And I ended up with a therapist that I was referred to through my daughter's therapist. And little did I know, and she was smart enough not to tell me that she was sober for 35 years and in Alcoholics Anonymous. And because I wouldn't have gone, right? I was so protective of my alcoholism, and I'm what they consider a high bottom drunk, right? Like I didn't have DUI, I didn't end up in jail, I didn't lose jobs, but my life was chaos. Sure. And this therapist for a year gained my trust, and would when my daughter was complaining about my alcohol, she'd say to me, well, why don't you just have one or two drinks and stop? And I'm like, and she's like, a social drinker has one or two drinks. And I'm thinking, no, a social drinker drinks with other people. Right. So she's planting these seeds, and then and that addresses the physical craving aspect of alcoholism, right?
Right.
Which I'm a big book girl, and I don't mean to monopolize this, but when I was first in AA, I had a sponsor who told me that I needed to stay on steps 1, 2, and 3 for the first year. And I'm so grateful for my therapist, because she's like, oh, absolutely not. That's not in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. You need to launch into steps 4 and 5 and go through the steps. And she's like, it's not in the big book. So if somebody's telling you to do something that's not in the big book, you need to question them. So after that, I'm like, I need to go to big book meetings. I need to learn this book. And, that's what I've since done.
That is so true. So true. Right. It doesn't say it in the book and I've read it. And there is no timeline at all. It doesn't say do it in a month, a week, a year. It never references that. It's a focus on getting healthy and getting through the steps in a healthy way.
Yeah, well, it talks about we vigorously launched, right, on a course of action, right? So, like for me, staying in step 3 without going through that inventory and sharing that with, my character defects and getting to the root cause, kind of was very difficult, but one of my favorite chapters that I didn't like when I first came in is We Agnostics, right? And it talks about if when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, so that's talking about the obsession of the mind part of alcoholism, where my mind will, you'd play tricks on me to get me to drink, right? Or if when drinking, you have little control over the amount you take. And that's the physical craving of alcoholism, right? Well, as soon as I take a drink, like I just need more. And that's the physical allergy. You know, you may be you are probably alcoholic. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. You know, and I had that physical craving since day one, right? The first time I drank, I was abnormal. Like, you know, I had one drink and then I was just off to the races. And I always knew I was abnormal, but the thought of being alcoholic was like, oh God, no, you know, I'm not
under the bridge.
Right?
Yep, brown bagging it.
Yeah. So I managed my physical craving by just knowing that I couldn't pick up a drink until the end of the day. So I drank for 30 years by just delaying that first drink. Like if I went to a funeral and had a drink in the middle of the day, I was going to be drunk for the rest of the day. You know, but this therapist, you know, really helped me to see the truth of my alcoholism.
Wow. So how long did it take you to work how long did it take you to work the 12 steps? And then kind of what was the change during that, and what do things look like today?
Yeah, so the 12 steps.
Because you're 16 years sober today, right? Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
I am. Amazing, isn't it? And when I came in, I thought, oh my God, like I can't get a week, right? And I came to AA for about 6 months and kind of in and out saying, that's not for me. You know, like these people, I don't relate. And my therapist is like, listen, look for the similarities, not the differences.
Amen.
And as soon as I started doing that, you know, I would say the first time that I did the steps, it probably did take me over a year. Mm-hmm. And you know, as I went through the steps, I found freedom, right? Freedom from alcohol, freedom from like a lot of the insanity that I have in my head, right? Because I can talk myself crazy. You know, freedom from my past, a lot of the promises, right? You know, although there are still things in my past that I regret. So I think that means I need to keep working, right? Because I haven't gotten complete freedom, but I haven't attained the perfection yet. And you know, I've done the steps 3 times at this point. I'm one of those that believes that you can do the steps more than once. Some folks think, you know, one and done, but I don't get into arguments, right? I just focus on what works for me.
Yeah, I love what Glenn says. Glenn says he learns so much from his sponsees. So, you know, if I ask you, Glenn, how many times you work the steps, you would have an answer. But each time you're working with a sponsee, you're actually working the steps again.
I redo them, so I've done them 10 times. But, you know, I was just talking to Mikey earlier. I think the first time I went through the steps, I mean, I may know half of AA, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just guessing. But of all I know about AA, I probably learned 10% of it from going through the steps myself. And I've learned the rest from continuing on the path, working steps with sponsees, continuing to go to big book meetings, you know, and so, I mean, that's what's really filled in my learning gap through the years.
Right. Carole, it's amazing. I could just see the commitment that you have, and just the, you know, you started out by saying, you know, there is a solution, which Glenn and ours favorite chapter in the book, right? And it doesn't say there might be a solution, it doesn't say there could be a solution, but if you buy into the words, it said there is a solution, and I'm seeing you as living that solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the, you know, the thing that I like to focus on, especially for like newcomers or, you know, even sometimes family members or friends of alcoholics, right? Just kind of encouraging them that there is a solution. And, you know, sometimes for those folks, Al-Anon is the solution, right?
Mm-hmm, sure.
A lot of it, I'm like, listen, if you want to help a friend or a family member get sober, go to Al-Anon. right? Learn your own 12 steps and learn that you can't solve it for them, right? We all have our own problems that are ours to solve.
No, that's great. Carole, just to start wrapping this up here, I will say this. First of all, I am so proud of you and so proud to know you and to continue to watch. I love watching your grandkids on Facebook, and I'm like, that's the promises, right? And I always look at, hey, that's part of my encouragement to stay on the path is looking at others and how they succeed, because I see progress in other people before I see it in myself, right?
Yep.
I love how you're committed to the big book. That's just really cool. We on the show tend to be pro-sobriety, right? I mean, we're in 50 countries, all kinds of people, right? And what we've committed to is we are pro-sobriety. I know there's other paths out there. What I can say with 100% certainty, Mikey has found one path, I have found one path, and it sounds like you have found one path, and they're all the same path, right? And we've had every other form on here, and I'm not mocking them, but they all seem to be modeled after AA, just twisting some words or things around, right? So, super committed to that. And I just think it's cool that we can be vocal, right, about our sober path. And Carole, there's 4 other folks in our class, that are on the sober path. And you may know who I'm talking about because they're pretty vocal too. I'm not ashamed of it anymore. And that's only recent. I mean, I got 9+ years sober, and it's only like the last year or two am I getting vocal about it. And because it's actually, for me, it's a superpower.
Absolutely.
And as I watch your life, and I watch it from my bleacher seat on Facebook, but I'm just so proud of you, and I'm proud that you took the opportunity and jumped on the show with us, and glad that we had a chance to reconnect. And if I ever get back to Philly, which I don't have any family in Philly anymore, but if I ever get back to Philly, I'd love to get together in person and go to a meeting and just continue the conversation.
By the way, I think yes, go ahead. No, I think technically speaking, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Glenn, you could come to my home group.
I would love it.
But and I also want to add real quick, you talked about my grandchildren. I think my daughter saw me drunk, right? And I'm kind of like really disappointed, although she has ended up to be a very sober woman. She will have a glass of wine on occasion, but she understands the dangers of alcoholism by watching me, but God willing, my grandchildren will never see me drunk.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, and God willing, like I say this all the time, I am active in AA because I want AA to be around in case they're alcoholics as well, right? I don't want this solution to kind of fall off to the side, not be there for them if they need it.
I never thought of it that way. That's absolutely amazing, Carole. No, it's funny. I just had, I have 2 stepkids that have never seen me drink. My 2 daughters, I worked my 8th and 9th step with them. It took years to rebuild trust with them. Years. And I was just down to see them and my little granddaughter, and same thing I thought. I'm like, man, I am here today because I'm sober. If I wasn't sober, you would never see me.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Yeah, I wouldn't be having the time that I have with my grandchildren if I wasn't sober.
No, I love seeing that from my bleacher seats. It's fantastic. So,
and
hey,
Carole,
I
just want to thank you, really. Thank you for coming on. You were inspirational because I could relate to early childhood trauma. And I guess the message I heard from you this morning is, these things happen, and maybe we drank over them, but maybe we didn't. The point is that we can survive the other side of childhood trauma and embrace life for all it has to offer, grandkids and all these things, and we can handle it. I know that when I play with my grandkids now, I'm present in their life, So my kids saw me drunk, but my kids also didn't know I was drunk most of the time that I was with them. Now with my grandkids, I get to experience that moment in a whole new light. So thank you so much for opening our eyes to that this morning.
Appreciate it anytime. Thank you for asking me to join.
Hey, will you come back next week?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Carole.
All right, thanks, Carole.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, The AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.